Welcome back, guys. I'm here with Grandpa Nick, who fell asleep between takes.
I decided to take a nap.
Segments, rather. Yeah, a nap. That was 13, 14, maybe 15 hours ago, something to that effect.
Now, in fairness, I woke up around 10 this morning, and you slept until noon.
I did. I also was up until 7:30.
Yeah, you're crazy.
And just yakking away, talking.
Yeah.
Anyway, so segment 2, I kept to the sincerity of the show. I kept my shirt on, although I did change my hat, or put on a hat rather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I decided to just change clothes. It's okay.
It's because you don't believe in this project.
I very much believe in this project. I'm committed to wearing clean clothes every time I appear on camera, unlike some people.
It's pretty clean.
But, guys, today we have we obviously we have a cigar, we have a beverage, and we have a topic, right? So the beer I'll introduce because I was the one to pick out the beer. This is a Founders Kentucky Breakfast Stout Espresso. This is actually a fairly special beer. So every year Founders releases the KBS Kentucky Breakfast Stout, which is their breakfast stout, except it's been aged in bourbon barrels, and even just the standard Founders KBS is already a very special thing, but this is a limited run, the KBS Espresso, and this is aged with chocolate and coffee in the bourbon barrels in addition to the breakfast stout. So it promises to be a pretty phenomenal beer. I imagine, just like the KBS, normally it's going to be a big and bold flavor, except I'm expecting to have notes of chocolate and espresso somewhere in there as well. Should be pretty good. And actually, interestingly enough, I'm sure, Ahmed, you'd like to introduce the cigar. It seems like this might be a really nice compliment.
Yeah, in typical Ahmed fashion, I was responsible for selecting the cigars, which I certainly don't mind doing. And I landed on one that I'm just a big fan of, the Perdomo brand in general. It just seems like everything they put their hands on sort of turns to gold. But this particular product is extremely interesting. According to even like the info on the corporate description from their marketing folks. It's something that seems so obvious to them once they did it, like putting Nutella on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is what they actually said. And ultimately what that thing was is that they took 3 of their favorite blends for this series of cigar, and that would be the Habanos, and aged them in bourbon barrels. So it's a minimum of 6 years. 6 years of aging beforehand, but then an additional 14 months. So this is a minimum of 7 years, but actually guaranteed to be over 7 years of aging to get it how it is now. And because of that, I'm going to reference the site real quick just for the flavor notes they have here. They say Perdomo Habano Bourbon Barrel Aged Maduro is dressed in a Maduro wrapper that was aged at least 6 years, an additional 14 months in bourbon barrels. Completing the blend are aged premium long fillers from Condega, Jalapa, and Esteli, Nicaragua. Let me know how bad I butchered that. The cigar boasts a medium to full-bodied profile with hints of cocoa, coffee, and flavors from the bourbon barrel settling in behind the scenes. It's pretty... sounds like something that's going to pair really well.
Yes.
Should
be a nice compliment. I think.
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, let me get these cut and introduce our topic.
Certainly. So our topic at hand today is going to be part 3 of the Audiophile Lexicon. And in this part of the Audiophile Lexicon, we talk about different formats. Sometimes that means different physical formats, and other times that means different digital formats, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Now we're getting the cigars cut, and I'll get the beer poured while we do this as well. Yeah, definitely going to be some interesting topics, interesting items about the topics that we describe here.
Yeah, and one precursory piece of information I would say is, we kind of opted to omit, because obviously there's 1,000,001 formats out there that we could have sort of delved into.
A lot of dead formats.
Yeah, and so we tried to omit either dead or just formats that were dead on arrival.
Sorry, guys, we will not be covering Betamax.
Yeah. Mini disc, we shall not. It's just not. I don't know. I don't have hate for the type of product.
It's just not relevant. Yeah,
and it never really was. And mini disc, sort of. Betamax, yeah. It could. I mean, sure, it was an interesting product. Just
look at the head on this, like a regular beer, unlike
unlike the. So a little while ago, we did a comparison of some Mexican lagers, and they didn't have head like that.
No, they basically had none.
Yeah, no, there was
despite the incredible carbonation,
like the thickness of a wafer.
Yeah, it was.
It was
something.
Yes, even like the body of it even.
Oh yeah,
it sort of shakes there.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna introduce a new beer consumption technique where you
we jiggle the table. That's how you determine the quality of beer, right there. Right there.
With wine, you hold it over a napkin. With beer, you jiggle the table.
Jiggle the table. How does this beer shake out?
That's funny.
This is a very pleasant smelling cigar.
It's so
this
sweet but spicy. I just want to keep sniffing.
Oh yeah, no, this is just like, I don't even know if I want to smoke it. I just want to put it up to my nose like this for a while. It is really nice. And the beer. Oh yeah. Definitely get the espresso in there. For sure. And I do get chocolate notes as well, there's no doubt. Well, now I get cigar notes, but
a pleasant smell.
A pleasant smell? Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, this is pleasant anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The box. So we get some of the character of that guy. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Always difficulties getting the cigar lit for me. I don't know why.
Have you considered you suck?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do. Yeah, I don't think anyone would question that, really. I'm really just on here because you needed someone else to someone to ridicule.
A warm body.
Yeah, that's really all it takes.
Ahmed
is really the expert here. Yeah, how's the beer?
Of all things. I'm getting so much cigar smoke in my nose and mouth that it's like killing the beer a little bit. Actually, really interesting. It's like like a malty spice or something.
There is a spice with the cigar.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm getting the coffee. It's not like extraordinarily present, as I kind of expected it to be. But nonetheless, it is still definitely pretty tasty.
Having had the original breakfast stout and the KBS as well, compared to those, which are, well, especially the regular breakfast stout is much more watery, is less viscous than this sort of beer. But like even compared to KBS, this is just like a coffee bomb.
Oh, sure. I guess that makes sense. I mean, that's sort of like the goal of it, yeah.
Right. And I mean, in fairness, we always start by smoking the cigar first and then going to the beverage, which is not necessarily a bad way of going about it, but then you don't get to taste the essence of the beverage all on its own.
Okay, so Audiophile Lexicon, Part 3. So probably the last part I think of Audiophile Lexicon. I can't think of other things we might.
At least not right now.
Yeah, not really name out. Maybe we can do some updated or abridged versions in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But for the time being, what's our first form of media we've got there?
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with the physical formats and then work our way to the digital formats. Sure. I think that makes sense. And maybe we should just get the old-fashioned format out of the way, which is the record. Now, I'm not calling it a vinyl disc because of the 3 different variants of record. One of them is not made of vinyl, right? Vinyl refers to the material that 33s and 45s are made out of. Now, the 3 different formats are 33, 45, and 78. All right, the 33s and 45s are made out of vinyl. The 78 is made out of shellac. Shellac is considerably heavier than vinyl. It's also very susceptible to breaking. If you drop a shellac disc, it will shatter.
Yes.
Shellac.
Is that really the correct pronunciation?
It's the way I'm going to pronounce it.
Okay. I don't actually know. I've just always heard people say shellac.
Yeah, I've heard both ways. But
I have now.
Correct us in the comments section below with the phonetic spelling of that, if you would be so kind.
Yeah.
That's one I can't say. That's very good. That is very good. So why do they call them 33, 45, and 78 RPMs? Well, the 33 RPM disc spins at 33. Yeah. It's 33 and a third rotations per minute. Then the 45s.
45 and a half, I think.
It might be 45 and a half. Yeah, you might be right. And then the 78s are just a straight 78.
Yeah, you spin them right out the window. They sound like shit. I don't.
There's a difference in playback. So 33s, they were introduced in the early 1950s. Some of the first 33s were in mono, and then later on they became available in stereo. Now you would need different cartridges for mono versus stereo to get stereophonic playback on those 33 RPM discs that are in stereo. Most 45s, to my understanding, were in stereo. And 45s are available. You can either get the little 7-inch discs or the big 12-inch discs. Those are both, again, pretty sure those are both in stereo there. And the 78s were really only available in mono. The 78s required a special cartridge to play back. The stylus was a conical stylus, whereas with the 33s and the 45s, they require an elliptical stylus for playback. So really, between the 33s and 45s and then the 78s, there's kind of like 2 really distinct separate formats of record there.
And you're talking about a media format that's like from, right around the turn of the century, talking about pre-industrial revolution.
Yeah.
So like that which is pretty insane.
Yes.
I've got a bunch of 78s on hand actually that were like my grandma's, and I think about going through the bother of getting some kind of adapter or just getting some kind of extra turntable.
Yeah, you need a dedicated table.
Yeah,
because like
there are adapters you can get that have like a needle that sort of like transmit the information to a regular stylus.
Yeah,
but I'm number one, I'm afraid to damage my stylus with one of those.
Yeah.
And then additionally, I don't know.
You get a 78 RPM player. Like Riga makes one.
I would get a 78 RPM player with like speakers built in. Who cares about the fidelity of the playback of the 78? In my opinion.
I suppose
it's never going to be hi-fi.
No, I mean, the thing is like, and this is just like the limits of the technology of the day, really. That the 78s were just low fidelity, right? Because the thing is, when it comes to physical formats like tape or vinyl disc, the faster you drag that needle across the vinyl or shellac, or the faster that tape spins over the reader, the more information you're picking up at any given moment, which means a higher sample rate. It means higher fidelity. The problem is the 78s, just because of limits in manufacturing technique and tolerances, things like that, they were necessarily lo-fi. And the reason why they don't make 78s now as like a super high-end audiophile option is because you can barely fit one song on one side of 78. So it would just be ridiculously expensive and impractical.
Album that's like
that's
photo
like
album size.
This is a 14 shellac album here. Deutsche Grammophon actually with their DG 120 box set celebrating their 120th anniversary. They have have an option of shellac recordings that you can get 78 RPM discs, brand spanking new, of some of their most revered works from back in the days of shellac. They were direct transfers.
Sure, that's pretty cool though.
Which is pretty crazy, but most of the time you're just not going to see that. Okay, so I think we've covered the vinyl and shellac pretty well for records there, yeah, maybe we'll just jump ahead a few decades and move on to the compact disc. So CDs they're 5-inch pieces of plastic, and they essentially have a reflective material, and there's a laser that is reading pits and lands on that reflective material. And it was first introduced in 1980. It was developed through the late 70s, but it was first introduced in 1980. It was a conjunction between Sony and Philips and a couple of other smaller time brands that had less to do with the development. Really, Sony and Philips were the big ones there that introduced the compact disc, the first digital physical format that was available en masse to consumers, and that sparked a whole revolution in how we as people listen to music, consume music. Really incredible.
A whole revolution, according to Andy Singer, trying to make a bad format sound good.
Well, yes, and that's the thing is CD, when it was originally marketed, was marketed as
the final,
the perfect medium to hold music on. Sure. It was perfect forever. That was the big thing with CD, and that proved not to be true because there were so many other factors involved in making a CD play perfectly, including the mastering of the recording, by the way, but even how that was digitized, and we've learned a lot since 1980 as far as how to get a much better recording on a CD. Of course, yeah. And honestly, some people would argue, well, a CD is still a disc that spins, and really if we could get rid of that whole mechanical mechanism, then we can eliminate certain faults that we would otherwise have to worry about spending our money on.
Sure, but you now have to introduce extra layers of digitization.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which obviously makes things a lot more complicated.
Definitely. So with the CD, kind of spawned different disc-based formats. So, for example, on the video end of things, the DVD, right? That was introduced in the middle-ish 90s, like 96, 97.
If you were premium, special boy.
Yes. But that was introduced as a format to kind of replace the video home system, or VHS, as some people might know, the tapes. Cassettes, and the DVD was introduced, so that was another disc-based format that was now video and audio on a disc, which was pretty cool. The Super Audio CD in the early 2000s, that was introduced as a high-fidelity audio format. So they basically said, this was after the introduction of DVD, but we wanted something for the audiophiles, something that people would appreciate, and
honestly, all 15 of us, we bought the hell out of DVD audios.
Well, DVD audio, that's another format as well that I was going to get to.
Oh, honestly, I meant to say Super Audio CD, but I said DVD audio.
I mean, we bought the hell out of those too.
Yeah, one of the same. That was like 8 of us.
So, Super Audio CD is very unique. So it could be either in stereo or in multi-channel. In some Super Audio CDs, they were hybrid discs, as they were. They would have the CD layer, they would have a 2-channel Super Audio CD layer, and a multi-channel SACD layer up to 5.1. And Super Audio CD, it was actually very special. It used a very special format that even in digital files today is still prevalent, called DSD, or direct stream digital. DSD files, they rely on an insane sampling rate, very, very high sampling rate.
Yes, the amount of data is insane.
Yeah, the amount of data is insane. Now, it's across 1 bit depth. It is not, super deep bit depths. But the sampling rate of a minimum of 2.8 megahertz. Megahertz! Yeah. The CD, by comparison, is 44.1 kilohertz.
Yeah,
like just child's play.
Different engineering notation.
Yeah. It's just massive, and the difference in Super Audio CD was a really significant one. It allowed people who knew what they were doing to take advantage of that format in ways that they could not with CD, and get you performances that much more lifelike. It was really incredible.
How do you how do you feel about the comparison between things like a 45 RPM vinyl disc and Super Audio CD?
I think that's tough. They're different. I will say that some of the best analog that I've ever heard was on a 45 RPM 12-inch vinyl.
Sure.
In fairness, some of the best digital I've heard is not on a Super Audio CD.
Oh, sure. That's because of things we'll talk about later.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So moving on, I briefly mentioned before the birth of the DVD, the digital versatile disc, and what had spawned off of that for, again, the audiophile community was DVD
Wait, is
audio.
That what DVD stands for? Digital
Versatile.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not digital video?
No. Look it up.
I believe you. That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So it catches a lot we catches actually.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. Another thing that us really geeky audiophiles do to challenge people.
Even I didn't know that.
We ask people what is the meaning of SPDIF. You see SPDIF all over the place. Sure. What is the meaning of SPDIF?
Or HDMI and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, but HDMI is much more common. Do you know what the meaning of SPDIF is?
It's Sony Philips digital SPDIF interface.
Yeah, Sony Philips digital interface.
Yeah.
IF is.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But it's interesting. A lot of people had no idea.
Sure.
That it was Sony and Philips. They're like, special polonium.
I also exclusively say Spitif.
Yeah. Sure.
Spitifs and Hidmeys.
You got the Wi-Fi's to go with
Yeah.
that?
Oh, that's what they call it in Europe.
Oh my goodness.
Wi-Fi.
Anyway, DVD audio, getting back to that. So DVD audio, again, offered a 2-channel and a multi-channel solution, but this time they offered some video as well. And the video was, generally speaking, used for interactive menus. It was used to be able to display lyrics on the screen, which was a pretty cool thing. And also the formatting was different. So where Super Audio CD used the direct stream digital format, very high in sample rate but very low in bit depth, the DVD audio said, well, we'll have higher sample rates, but we also want to have higher bit depths. So DVD audio offers up to 192 kilohertz, 24-bit audio, generally just in the stereo presentations, not always in the multi-channel, although I think I might have one DVD audio that's 192.24 in 5.1, but I could be wrong.
Look, I know the Rumors one, for example, is 192.24 but 2-channel.
I believe it's just in stereo.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
The Game by Queen have that one as well. That's a nice one. They use the channels a little more actively on that in kind of like
typical Queen fashion.
Right. And it's kind of in a fake way. Like obviously, if you went to a concert, it wouldn't be like that. Sure. But
of course. I mean, same thing with for example, the recording of, like, let's say, Bohemian Rhapsody, with all this sort of playing, but it ends up sounding cool.
Yeah. That's exactly
that's what it's about.
So that's DVD audio. DVD audio and Super Audio CD existed around the same time, early 2000s. Unfortunately, one other thing that existed during that time that led to the pretty much the demise of those other two formats and made them, well, tremendously less popular. Not quite dead, but tremendously less popular, was the inception of the iPod. Right, the iPod and the birth of digital music being able to have
MP3, baby,
MP3, or actually AAC with the
Apple,
iPod. But that was I can have my entire music library come with me wherever I want it to be.
1,000 songs in my pocket.
Yes, that's exactly it.
No more Kobe or Sony CD Walkman.
Oh yeah, no. Although I remember having CD Walkmans. That was
I had a Kobe one.
Yeah.
That was like the poor man's one though.
Yeah. My first portable CD player was a Craig.
I don't even know that, bro.
Yeah. Exactly. Neither did I.
I remember my siblings had Sonys, and I was so jealous. I was really young to have even lived through, having portable CD players.
Yeah.
Because by the time
you're an infant.
By the time I was really of age,
Ahmed just turned 14 today.
Yeah.
Everybody in the comment section below, wish Ahmed a happy 14th birthday today. The pink hat says everything.
Because I ate a 14-year-old.
Getting back to it, so Super Audio CD and DVD audio kind of divided the audiophile community because it's like, okay, well, what should I buy? Should I get a Super Audio CD or should I get a DVD audio? And then, of course, they found out that you had to really get a player that could play both or one or the other, whatever it was. So there was a bunch of back and forth between that. So you had divisiveness in the audiophile community where they weren't buying one particular format. And then you have this digital revolution in the iPod sector that just took right off because that's what the masses wanted. They wanted convenience. And the quality for them, it wasn't good, but it was good enough. Apparently 1/10 of CD quality was good enough. Which, by the way, if you had one of those original iPods and you didn't do any changes to iTunes, you got 1/10 of CD quality. It was pretty freaking bad. Moving on. So SACD and DVD audio, they're gone, more or less. There are a couple of
come out to the Japanese.
There are a couple of esoteric sites that you can still buy SACDs and DVD audios from, but it is very few and far between.
Sure. So many Japan exclusives, though, is kind of what I'm getting
right.
at. Yeah.
So moving on from that, in 2006, 2007 was the birth of the Blu-ray disc, right? The Blu-ray disc was a big thing,
sure.
and it was a big thing mostly in terms of video quality, but also in audio quality
sure.
as well.
Video
quality, you went from standard definition 480p up to 1080p, which I believe that's 6 times. Something like that. It's considerably
480 720s double, I think.
Yeah, and then 720 to 1080 is 4 times.
Yeah.
So 4 times the image clarity, and then from audio for like regular movies, you went from a basic like at the best the DVD could do would be a 6-channel DTS track, DTS ES, and that was sitting right around 1.5 megabits per second, give or take. That's the bit rate. And with Blu-ray disc, the best you could do is DTS HD Master Audio, which was up to 25.4 megabits per second. So literally like 20 times the amount of information being given at one time. And we're just talking for movies. We're not even talking about the pure potential here, which, getting to it, they came out with Blu-ray Pure Audio. Which essentially takes all of the available data on a Blu-ray disc and dedicates it only to audio quality, and it's just insane audio quality, be it 2-channel or multi-channel. You could have 32-bit.
I don't think I've actually heard one.
It's incredible. One of my friends, Paul, has a couple of BD Pure Audios. Yes.
Oh.
Sorry
to name you.
Yeah. They're really incredible there.
I didn't know he was into audio like that.
Yeah. He has like some Oro 3D stuff too, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, 1 of 4 in America.
Yes. That is very true. Speaking of 1 of 4 in America, let's talk about another physical format, MQA CD.
Oh, 1 of 3 in America.
Yeah, 1 of 3 in America for sure. Why don't you explain that one?
Super cool. I mean, obviously the whole idea of MQA, whether it's on a CD or not, is just it's an algorithm that's going to take what otherwise would be a huge music file like what you see with DSD, and is able to, using this algorithm, sort of package it down to a relatively small size, and then you have an MQA decoder, again, whether that's through a traditional sort of digital to analog converter that's external, or through an internal one on like a physical media playback device like a CD player, and it's able to sort of take that small package and sort of put the pieces back together to create the bigger image that is of a really high resolution, and it's really cool. The fundamental problem is just to, even if you have a CD player that's capable of MQA playback, you need an external MQA decoder, and it actually can't. What?
Well, you could have the MQA decoder on board and just have analog output.
But there's so few.
My
point is,
it's absurd. I don't even know of any CD players that are capable of MQA CD playback.
Does the Oppo?
No.
Oh, fair enough.
The 205 supports MQA over Ethernet and Wi-Fi.
So, but my point
USB,
is,
but not.
You can get an external MQA decoder, but the ones that are even like remotely, inexpensive, are limited only to MQA decoding on asynchronous USB input.
Yep. Which CD players typically don't have.
Well, almost none.
Yep.
And so then, you can use digital coaxial, or obviously optical is not going to support it. The amount of data is just limited.
Yep.
But optical probably could support it, but oftentimes the decoders can't.
Yep.
And so ultimately what you end up with is a conundrum where you're basically you're not going to buy MQA CDs. You're going to get some kind of digital, streaming playback device that's going to feed that information. Information.
Yep.
It's
yeah, and MQA is a tough one. Did you mention what MQA stood for?
I didn't.
Oh, yeah. So MQA stands for Master Quality Authenticated. The whole idea behind MQA, aside from all the digital origami that Ahmed was talking about,
digital origami, I like that.
Yeah, that's I picked that up. I think from Stereophile was the first one to use that. Yeah, so aside from that, it really what it is a way for the studios to make sure that the copyright protection is followed in much more so a way than your typical compact disc, and also to make sure that the artist's intent was preserved, or really whoever did the mix for that particular music. It was really to say, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that all the pertinent information is preserved from every link in the chain, from when it was mastered at the studio to when it hit the media format that it was, be it digital file or MQA CD or whatever it might be, to when it gets played back on the system.
There's some great content from the YouTuber Techmoan. We could link to in the description there. Techmoan made some awesome content about MQA CD. His videos were a little unfruitful because he actually didn't know that the device he bought, which was actually the Project Prebox S2 Digital,
yep.
Was only capable of MQA over USB. He was trying to do CD.
Pretty much any of the DACs that have the ESS chipsets will not be capable.
I think all.
And my challenge is I would have to check on the DCS Bartok. I think that would be the only one that I would know of that does MQA over digital coax, but I'm pretty sure even that is limited to MQA over USB, and that's like they make that DAC from scratch. Like it's not even it's not an off-the-shelf chipset.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it would be interesting to see if anybody actually comes out with that level of support. What is interesting is that with digital coax, you can do what's called DOP, which is DSD over PCM, which essentially allows you to use a bandwidth-limited format like digital coax connection to transmit super high-quality DSD files. It's kind of a form of digital origami that's done. But it's pretty incredible, and actually the Project Prebox S2 Digital supports that. Interesting. It's pretty sexy.
Yeah, for the money.
Yeah. Again, though, you've got to find a Super Audio CD player that has digital coax output, which is like 0. That actually will output DSD over coax is the key there. So that's tough. Okay, so we covered all that. I guess we're moving on now to the actual digital file formats. We've kind of covered all of the pertinent physical formats. I will make a quick note of saying that, the reason why we mentioned vinyl at first is because obviously vinyl has had this revolution, this renaissance.
Did we mention any magnetic tape?
No, we didn't, and I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And, vinyl is having this kind of like renaissance. Now, some would argue that the audio cassette is going to be following on the footsteps of vinyl. I don't know if it necessarily will, but
I don't know if it should.
We'll see. Well, yeah, I don't know about that either, because really the ultimate cassette is an open reel cassette, reel to reel, the format. Now, that, if anything, should absolutely come back.
Yeah.
This past November, Ahmed and I were at the New York Audio Show in... You guessed it, New York. And yes, I know. Surprise, surprise. We got to hear some reel-to-reel tape on a couple of systems, and we were just blown away.
Yeah.
Like the textures and the presentation, the scale of everything was
100%.
Just, oh my goodness, absolutely incredible. Reel-to-reel does things that digital, in my humble opinion, can't for any reasonable amount of money. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, there's a reason there's a lot of overlap between people who buy $500,000 horn systems and then reel-to-reel systems. Yeah, it's
yep, that is fair. That's fair.
That's one of the systems we listen to reel-to-reel on.
Well, yeah, that is true. So and I do want to mention that while reel-to-reel is certainly a valid format for people who can afford to pay $500 an album and pay $10,000 minimum for their reel-to-reel transport mechanism, and that's just like really the beginning there. I feel like for most even most audiophiles, not even counting the masses at large, but even most audiophiles, which is, what would you say, 1% of 1% of the world? You know, like
of the developed world, of the whole world, it's like
it's like almost
nothing.
It's 14 of us. 14.
Yeah, like listen, there are dozens.
So anyway, that's why we're not going super in depth to that. And like we said previously, covering things like 8-track is just not in today's world really relevant.
Sure, and again, it's one of those things that was another flash in the pan. That how long did it have cultural significance? 5 years.
I just noticed your Starbucks cup. I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but so you had said Ali.
Yeah. Ali, yeah.
Like Ali.
Yeah, they do it to me all the time.
That's atrocious. Yeah. So anyway, moving on to the digital audio format. So we had talked a bit about MQA and DSD and there are other formats therein. I think we've covered those sufficiently enough where we don't have to jump into them again. But MQA, digital origami, taking a high resolution, packing it in the size of what normally would be a lower resolution, having the DAC unpack that to be the high resolution yet again. DSD, insanely high sample rates, over 1 bit. The next format is PCM. PCM stands for Pulse Code Modulation, and essentially this is a consistent stream of ones and zeros, essentially plus 5 volts, 0 volts. No, it's not. So like DVD audio, for example, that was the PCM audio format, and that was 192 kilohertz, 24-bit. Some of the super high level PCM stuff right now is 384.32 or 768.32. There's some pretty impressive stuff there. Sure. Insanely high resolution. And again, whether it's PCM or DSD that you like in those super high resolution formats, I think it's subjective personally, but there are certainly benefits to those formats versus just what CD quality is.
I've kind of with the really high end digital stuff, I'm really of the frame of mind that whatever is available to me is what I like. Yep. So whatever the market actually ends up deciding that it wants,
it should be all right.
Yeah.
I find that like I will say that like certain artists they'll publish something in 1644.1 CD quality, but then they'll also make a high resolution offering. You'll find this on streaming services a lot, like Qobuz and Tidal, where you'll get the standard issue and then you'll get a high res issue, be it a MQA, be it higher bitrate PCM, so on and so forth. Sure. Given that choice, obviously I'm going to choose the high res option there. Just to get the better quality out of it. But you're right. If that happens to be MQA and MQA is just not my favorite format, I don't care. I've got an MQA decoder to be able to enjoy that, and it's better than CD quality, so let's just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? So moving on to FLAC. Not a duck. FLAC! FLAC stands for Free Lossless Audio Codec, and essentially it's a lossless format, right? Meaning that in the audio section of things there is no loss, but compression is applied to the non-audio areas of the file to reduce the file size so that it's a little bit more manageable. A lot of streaming services will stream in FLAC,
and then sort of as opposed to like Wave,
yes,
which is completely uncompressed.
Yes, that is correct. I'm not sure what Wave stands for, but I believe it's a Windows
thing. Audio.
Yeah.
The goodness.
I don't know. Wave is definitely a great file format because that is truly lossless. There is zero compression, which is really, really awesome. So can't complain about Wave. It just takes up a lot of space for what it is. So, like a Wave is basically the format that's on a compact disc. Really, it's CDDA, but essentially, if you're to throw that into a Windows computer, it would be Wave is how it would be read. In any event, it takes up a tremendous amount of space, though.
Waveform audio file.
Waveform audio
developed
file.
by Microsoft and IBM.
And IBM. Yeah. I'm like, IBM, what are you talking about?
Microsauce.
Yes. Macrosauce.
Micro hard What is it? No, Macro Hard Microsoft.
Yes, Microsoft. Yes.
That's a StarCraft reference.
It's a terrible reference.
That's a great reference. If you like StarCraft and you're into this channel, let's be best friends. Because I think you'd be the first person I met.
That's it. So yes, collaboration between Microsoft and IBM to create the WAV file format there. Basically what you find on a CD, more or less, and there's no compression, which is, some people have concerns with FLAC. Well, what if it is actually damaging the audio quality? Well, if you're concerned about that, store your stuff in WAV, because WAV, there's absolutely no compression.
Big overlap with the community that's afraid of vaccines.
Very possible. Look,
if you're that ticky-tacky about one, you'll be that ticky-tacky about the other.
I suppose. I don't know. I believe in vaccines, but I store a lot of stuff in WAV. I don't know. Anyway.
No, it's a joke.
I know.
I don't believe in vaccines.
Oh. That's great. So when they come out with the vaccine for coronavirus, you can just...
No, not for me.
Not for you.
I'm going to continue eating my bat soup. I'll be fine.
You're a terrible individual.
It's a myth.
You're a myth.
Mythical. Yeah.
Mythical creature.
Of untold size.
Yes. Nobody could tell. You're awful. Moving on, we have two more formats to cover. So there's and these are two formats that are considered lossy, right? So lossy formats mean that there is compression that is actually eating into the audio section of the file. So yes, just in case you're wondering, it is in fact lower fidelity than a lossless file format. So these two formats are MP3 and AAC, right? So MP3, MPEG Layer 3, is a very high-level compression file, which was very popular back when you had the little stick players, your little MP3 players. It's convenient. You can store a lot of songs in a relatively small amount of space, it's convenient. Right, that's really the thing. You're not using this for super duper high fidelity because there are actual audible limitations in this format. And AAC is very similar. It's just the Apple version. I think it stood for Apple Audio Codec, and I believe the
it's Affordable Health Care Act.
Gotcha. Yeah, forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Affordable Health Care Act.
Thanks, Obama.
Thank you. So, in any event. AAC, like I think I was saying before, that debuted on the iPod, and that was and still is used today. Actually, even if you go to Apple Music and download something, it's in the AAC format, which is most unfortuitous. I hope that by the end of 2020 we just see the death of lossy formats for anything that involves audio fidelity. I really do.
Hey man, most people don't care. Is the unfortunate reality.
Right. Most people don't. I will say one of my favorite streaming services, Qobuz, they actually got rid of MP3s at the start of 2020. Yeah, I was really happy to see that. Tidal, which is
Qobuz has come down in price too.
They have by $10 a month. They've come down. Holy, they went from $25 a month down to $15 a month.
And I think they have a student format as well, or a student plan rather, that's even cheaper.
Even less.
Yeah. Shout out to David Solomon. Obviously.
Oh yeah.
Awesome dude.
David and Eric Benoit over there at Qobuz, great guys.
Qobuz is unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely my streaming service of choice.
100%.
Tidal, which is actually for their high res tier, is $5 more. They still offer MP3s. Now, I will say I do still have a Tidal subscription because
there's just some content.
Right. There are some songs that are only available on Tidal. Plus, you've got the MQA dynamic of it, which it's very interesting because on Qobuz they'll have a high resolution option as well, and you can listen to that in high resolution PCM, and then you can go back and forth and listen to it in MQA, and there are differences, and sometimes the MQA sounds better, sometimes the high res sounds better. Now, I personally feel most of the time the high res sounds better, but you know, maybe it's just because my MQA decoder isn't as capable as I'd like it to be. Because with the MQA file format, what we've learned is that it is very much dependent on the capabilities of whatever is doing what they call the unfold of the MQA file. That's a big thing. So it's much more susceptible to performance differences between one DAC and another versus decoding PCM.
Makes sense. I mean, it's a more direct decoding, so
yeah.
It's a little bit less origami going on there.
Yeah. Gosh, I think that covers it, unless you got more.
I think my closing sort of ideas are just that whatever gets you to listen to more music, man. If the ritual of a physical media playback, be it vinyl or CD, or DVD audio, whatever, if you're one of the 14. But seriously, if that gets you to listen to more music, awesome.
Yep.
Like, whatever gets people that love music to just sit down and listen to more music, and for me, it's been Qobuz just because of the sheer convenience of it.
It's very convenient, and it is very high quality.
Yeah, no, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really incredible, and that new DAC of yours must be great.
Yeah, I've been loving it. Yeah,
that musical fidelity.
Yeah, no, like it's a
great piece
for the money, it's unbelievable.
It's really awesome.
Yeah, no, it's and again that like boominess, that like it's, but in a pleasant way. It is
pleasantly
just
booming.
The way it reaches down, and again for like. I feel like we're always sort of talking about this. Oh, for those of you who say this, or for those of you who say that, but really, for those of you that are like DACs don't matter, I implore you really compare them because it's so different.
Do a side by side comparison and
make
it blind.
Yeah. Like we did a blind comparison between your project piece, and my musical fidelity piece. Now, given they're separated by 9 years, and they were at a very similar price point, the $20 difference retail, I think.
Yep.
But huge difference.
Yeah.
In terms of overall, decayability, in terms of overall sort of imaging, soundstage, like placement.
The tonal character was completely different.
Yes, but all the things I sort of named were in favor of the project piece. It's newer and it's better chipset. But on the flip side, I liked the tonal characteristics of the musical fidelity a lot. I'm just privy to that like high energy, fun sound.
Yep.
And for those songs that benefit from that, the musical fidelity is amazing, especially for what you can get it for. Which is like, $150 or less.
You know what would be fun to do would be comparing the...
musical fidelity VDAC 2.
The VDAC 2, which is what
VDAC 1 as well, but the VDAC 2 is what we're talking about.
We should do another more in-depth DAC comparison, like with my Bryston.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I think that'd be a fun time. I have a Bryston BDA 1 DAC, which
I love.
Yeah.
Number one, I forget how it sounds. It just looks cool. It's big, it's chunky, it's like the size of an integrated for a lot of people.
I'm working on getting the remote for that because the remote is a solid chunk of aluminum. Like, it's just it's unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the whole idea is, like Ahmed was saying, whatever makes you listen to more music, there is a sheer variety of different formats out there, and whatever format works best for you, great.
I'm going to go against the audiophile grain here. If the convenience of airplaying or Spotify connecting to something gets you to sit down and listen to more music, that's what I'm a fan of. I love music, and I still have a Spotify subscription for that reason, because there's actually a good amount of music that I like to listen to that I don't own a physical copy of that's not on Qobuz or Tidal, where I'm perfectly happy to listen to it because, number one, I'd rather be able to listen to it than just not be able to, but secondarily, it sounds really good anyway. Does it sound worse? Sure. Does it still sound good? 100%.
Good enough to be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think that pretty much all of us started with, at least, those of us who are younger.
Our industry has a lot to thank for the MP3 and for the portable music player, even if we have disdain for them at this point.
A lot of people that are around our age, though, we started, really, like, our own music was really mostly in the realm of that digital download to start. I had some CDs.
I don't even remember the file format I was using, but I actually primarily was listening to my music off of the 2.5mm headphone output on my PSP. Like, I would just lay in bed and listen to music.
Super small.
Yeah, the super small. The port was yellow. Like, I remember really distinctly.
Man.
But it was so easy for me.
Yep.
I would pop in one of my Sony memory stick cards.
Oh yeah,
load it
nice.
up with a ton of music with a little like UFO.
Still better sounding than my Craig CD player.
Oh yeah. That I don't doubt.
Oh man, you just shake the table like to get your beer shaken to see how it shakes out and.
Yeah.
and the CD player skip. It's a memory that I am not so fond of.
Or I was there with my Kobe CD player.
I remember when the Sony
it.
Walkmans came out and had the 10 minutes of skip protection. You just smack that thing all day long. It was fine.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's what my siblings had. I was so jealous for car rides because my little Kobe would like skip and I would like stop.
Oh, yeah. You know what was funny?
Listen to "Get Rich or Die Trying" by 50 Cent a lot at that time.
Oh my goodness!
I was into it.
You goon.
It's still a fun album. I like it.
Oh my god, that's great.
That's what I listen to a lot.
Well, listen, guys, I really hope you're enjoying the content that we're putting out here. And if you do, or if you don't, for that matter, hop on the comment section below. Let us know what we can do to improve our show. Let us know what you think of our cigar selection, our beer selection. Maybe suggest some pairings that it's always fun. Like obviously, I've tried a lot of beer. Ahmed's tried a lot of cigars, and we're kind of meeting of the minds, if you will, to try and figure out great pairings for us here. But we want to hear from you guys as well. I think that's really important. If there are topics that you want us to cover that relate to the things that would qualify as the finer things, let us know in the comment section below. We would really like to hear from you. Shoot us an email, thefinerthings@gmail.com.
Finerthingsshow@gmail.com.
Thank you. Thefinerthingsshow@gmail.com.
Yes.
Thanks for the correction there. That would have been a
Get
problem.
emails. Hey, that email doesn't exist. Or if it does, it's not to us.
Oh, yeah. So piss some guy off.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell are all these people doing? Thefinerthingsshow@gmail.com. Obviously, if you like our show, hit the like button. If you want to hear more from us, hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to get notifications of new shows as they drop. Yes, the real subscribe button. Guys, happy drinking, happy smoking, happy listening to all things that are fine.
Always happy to have you here.